Okay, you can go ahead and count us down, HTV.
Okay, you are live in 3, 2, 1.
All right. Welcome to the August 10th, 2020 public hearing of the Planning Commission on Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendments. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. To minimize feedback in the audio, all participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak. Planning commissioners should unmute themselves and turn on their camera to indicate they would like to speak. You can also send the chat to Melissa if you would prefer to be recognized that way. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. Please click the raise hand button illustrated on the screen. You will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. State your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. Members of the public may also ask questions to staff at any time during the meeting by typing them into the questions chat box illustrated on the lower right of the screen. If anyone has any difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to speak during the public comment portion of the meeting, please call 813-273-3774, extension 359, 813-273-3774, extension 359. For those joining us who are not familiar with our process, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following the presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chair. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will also be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal or response. Planning commissioners will ask questions and public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, a second, and discussion, a vote will be taken. We'll ask the clerk to please call roll now.
Good evening. Joseph?
Here.
Bernstein?
Here.
Cardenas?
Here.
Dix?
Here.
Dowdy?
Here.
Green?
Present.
You closed it up?
Press?
Here.
Marina?
Here.
Powell?
Here.
Dickerson?
This is Matt Pleasant filling in for Amber.
Thank you. Rodriguez?
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum?
Thank you very much. All right, our first order of business is item number 2, HCCPA 20-07, One Water Text Amendment, presented by Ms. Melissa Dickens.
Hi, good evening, commissioners. One moment while I get the presentation loaded. Thank you. Are you all able to see a PowerPoint up on the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Good evening, commissioners. Again, Melissa Dickens, Planning Commission staff. This item is HCCPA 20-07. It is a publicly initiated text amendment to the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, creating the One Water chapter. This is an action item this evening, and there will be a resolution provided for your vote. And we are thrilled to bring this proposed amendment before you this evening. This amendment would update a significant portion of the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan, which, as many of you are probably aware, has not been significantly updated since 2008. So we're excited to bring this update forward. It's something that's been in the works for a while with county staff. And before we move into the content of the amendment, I real quickly want to thank everyone who has been involved internally and externally on this amendment. It's truly been a team effort. Internally, specifically, I want to thank Sean College and Diego Guerra for their efforts. And then externally, we've had a tremendous number of folks helping shepherd this amendment forward and had tremendous collaboration and a great partnership with Hillsborough County government. A little bit of background on this amendment. We are planning to update the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan in phases, and the One Water Amendment is serving as the first phase of the overall update. When we look at water resources within the current comprehensive plan, you'll see that stormwater management, sanitary sewerage, and potable water elements are all separate. And then there's also water resources related language and maps that can be found in other elements throughout the comprehensive plan. And the purpose of the One Water Amendment is to update and replace and combine these elements, and also integrate other water resources related language and maps from other aspects of the plan. And when we started to look at the language related to water within the comprehensive plan, we also thought about the overall water cycle and wanting the comprehensive plan language to reflect that. So just as water is interconnected and interrelated in the natural system and in interfacing with humans in the environment, we wanted to make the comprehensive plan reflect that and have the language be interrelated and interconnected to show that it's all one water. Some other background that commissioners you may be interested in. We took a lot of time to look at some examples and case studies from other parts of the country, and we feel that it reflects best practices both in planning and the latest trends in water resources. Integrated water resources management is really on the forefront of that field, and so this plan would bring together both. Also in our research, we find that this has the potential to be one of the first One Water comprehensive plan approaches in the country. And so we're excited about bringing this forward, this really innovative approach to comprehensive planning. As I mentioned, this was developed collaboratively with the folks who implement water resources, and we worked with folks who are involved in stormwater, potable water, wastewater, and natural systems at the county. The proposed amendment also incorporates feedback from the public, stakeholders, as well as local, state, and regional agencies. And a couple of items that I wanted to point out in the packet, we did get some recognition that this approach was considered a model approach by regional entities, and also got some feedback, some positive feedback from a green development professional organization. And I am hearing a little bit of feedback. I just wanted to give that guidance. And in terms of the context for One Water within the plan, again, today's One Water chapter would update and replace the potable water, stormwater, and wastewater elements, as well as bring in other aspects of water resources within the comprehensive plan. And then other related future updates would update things like the remainder of the natural systems, resiliency and coastal management, and levels of service. And we had some workshops at the beginning of the year with our Board of County Commissioners, and they provided some policy direction that they wanted to see for all of our planning efforts moving forward. And so One Water specifically incorporates this new policy direction into the chapter. These are also considered best practices in water resources planning. So these are things like recognizing the interconnectedness of water, minimizing the negative impacts of septic tanks and continuing the septic to sewer conversion, increasing our utilization of existing potable and wastewater infrastructure within the urban service area, incorporating low impact development and green infrastructure. Also making sure that projects can serve multiple functions if that's feasible, and co-locating projects, making sure that we're coordinating our infrastructure and water resource investment with land use to encourage redevelopment, and then continued ongoing resource protection and water conservation. And through this amendment, we did a couple of things with the existing language. First of all, there was a significant update. So we took a look at the language and focused it on what is important for policy direction today, what are the current priorities for water resources planning in Hillsborough County, and made sure that the plan was focused on that. We also wanted to make sure that we retained some of the important components of the existing plan, but we wanted to go ahead and bring those into the more current way of thinking around planning. Some of the water resources language is quite old, and so this was an opportunity to update it. At the same time, we did reduce the size of this language. We started out with over 200 water resources goals, objectives, and policies, and we have 119 in the goals, objectives, and policies in the One Water chapter. And in looking at this language, about a quarter of it is brand new policy language, and about 75% of it is language that is updates to existing adopted goals, objectives, or policies, or retaining the language that's there today. And the One Water chapter is driven by 6 overarching goals. The first couple of goals are things that we brought forward from the current plan, protecting and preserving water resources, water conservation. We also wanted to bring forward things like service provision. And then some of the goals as you move forward include integrated water resources management, linking our land use with water resources, ensuring that our infrastructure and programs are sustainable, and then again, low impact development and green infrastructure. The plan is also a result of significant stakeholder and public outreach. We first started the outreach for this project actually even before the May and June date with some newsletter articles about this upcoming work. And then we had some formal announcements and put it on the project website and held a virtual public outreach kickoff in May and June. Again, we recognize that the COVID situation makes it sometimes challenging to get some stakeholder outreach, but we did get quite a bit of folks participating, and we really appreciate all the feedback that we received. We also created some reference documents to enable greater transparency, make it easier for stakeholders to understand what is in the plan, what's changing, what's new, how does it compare to the plan today. So we had several documents and crosswalks on our website. In addition to the general mailouts, the general emails and newsletters, we also did some more targeted outreach to neighborhood associations, the agricultural community, the building industry, and environmental organizations. And we held some separate specific stakeholder outreach meetings with the folks from the agricultural community who provided some very valuable feedback, the Tampa Bay Builders Association, and EPC staff. And the final version of this chapter does reflect this outreach and incorporates all the feedback incorporates the feedback that we received from both stakeholders and the public. In terms of agency comment, we did not get any objections from any of the reviewing agencies. We did receive comments from the Tampa Bay Estuary Program, Tampa Bay Water, the EPC, and DEO, and all of the comments that we received, as well as all of the public and stakeholder comments, are provided in your agenda packet today. So I wanted to share that with you all as well. And then we had 3 agencies respond with no comment: the Southwest Florida Water Management District, Hillsborough County Public Schools, and then Hillsborough County, who we were working with on this amendment. The consistency review was a little bit unique this time because, of course, much of the language that the One Water chapter would be consistent with is actually being updated and changed as part of this amendment. And so we took the approach to say that it was consistent with 4 overarching goals. And those goals were selected to represent all of the larger policy language that would be relevant. Of course, we didn't quite have room in the staff report to include all of the appropriate language, so we chose to focus on these 4 goals. These specifically pertain to the overarching themes of service provision and protection of citizens, health, safety, and welfare in the environment, and again, are used to represent all of the applicable objective and policy language. In terms of where we are in the process, this evening we'll hear your recommendation. That will go to the Board of County Commissioners for their transmittal public hearing. That will be held on August 27th. Then, assuming it is transmitted from August to October, will be state and regional agency review and comment. and then it will come back before the BOCC for an adoption hearing in late October, October 22nd. And in terms of a recommendation, your Planning Commission staff recommends that you approve the resolution in your packet, finding HCCPA 20-07 consistent with the Future of Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for Unincorporated Hillsborough County, and forward this recommendation on to the Board of County Commissioners. And this concludes my presentation this evening. I am available to answer any questions. We also have several county staff members who are available to answer questions as well. Thank you.
Unmute.
Thank you, whoever gave me that heads up. Thank you, Ms. Dickens, for the presentation. It was excellent. I will open it up to questions from the public at this point in time. I don't see any hands raised. If anyone in the audience is interested in making any comments on this item for action 20-071 water, please raise your hand. Okay, I see a couple hands going up. Got Mr. Jake Creamer. You're recognized.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Thank you, everyone. And my name is Jake Kramer. I work at Stearns Weaver. I'm a land use attorney. My background, many of you know me, but you don't, I don't think everyone knows my background is actually in agriculture. I help my family run a timber and cattle farm in North Florida. And I also own agricultural land in Hillsborough County. I'm here before you today as a member of the Hillsborough County Farm Bureau. And our board was approached by a number of members that were initially had some concerns about One Water. We put together an agricultural focus group with Melissa Dickens and Melissa Zornita, and it's really been a pleasure to work with them. And I just wanted the Planning Commission to know that your staff is doing a really good job of outreach and working with the public. They took calls fairly late at night. They worked through several rounds of red lines with an industry focus group that, again, we put together. As many of you know, agricultural uses are treated differently than some other land uses, generally because there are state statutes that govern agricultural uses, and best management practices are normally what we use to control environmental impacts. So they worked with us to incorporate those concepts into the document and update them. So we really appreciate working with them, and I think overall in the agricultural community now, we're in support of this update that we hope is going to continue the conversation of updating our plan, which badly needs to be updated. The one issue that I did want to bring up is that I think we feel that there are current comp plan policies that prohibit the extension of utilities into the urban service area. And we recognize in the agricultural industry that I think those policies are outdated, and they're being brought into One Water. My understanding is those will be updated at the same time as the future land use amendment or future land use element when it's amended. So, we are in support of these revisions with that. Just with that note, that we look forward to working together to update those utilities policies in the future that are more related to land use issues, I think, than anything else. So again, just really appreciate the collaboration and both Melissas working with us.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kramer. There anyone else in the public at this time? I don't see any hands raised on my end. Remember, everybody out there watching, you have to raise your hand. You want to be recognized to speak on this topic. All right, seeing no one else, I will open it up to the commissioners. Are there any comments or questions on this item from the commissioners? There we go. Commissioner Green, hello, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Melissa. This is just a general question. Why didn't SwiftMud have any comments on this?
Well, I don't want to speak for them. So what I say is caveated heavily, but it's my understanding that because much of this language already existed in some.
Mhm. Oh,
Loser?
Rose.
Yeah,
Apparently there's technical difficulties on Melissa Dickens then.
yeah, darn it. She's at the office too, probably to avoid that happening.
Okay.
Um,
I was just curious. I didn't know, and maybe I missed it in your comments if you sort of preface this by saying, well, this plan actually, is compatible with SwiftMud's sort of, regulations or whatever. But I was just also curious as to why they didn't comment more on this. So.
I do apologize. I lost connection at the office temporarily, so I switched to plugging in. And Commissioner Green, I'm not sure if you heard the remainder of my response. I was talking and then realized that I lost connection.
No, I didn't hear your comments. So.
Okay, I'll start again from the beginning. And again, I apologize for the technical fluke. This is why I come into the office, so I have backup. But again, I can't speak 100% to SwiftMud's lack of comments. They didn't give any reason or rationale as to why they had no comment. The comment that they did provide was generally that thanks for the opportunity to review. They are a reviewing agency as well, so they will get this a second time when it goes up to DEO. But generally, as someone who used to work at the Water Management District, I will say that they generally reserve their comments to more things that are specifically associated with their statutory purview. So that if I had to speculate, that may be one reason, but of course I can't say for certain because we don't have that information.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Green. Is there any more comments from any of the planning commissioners? I'm not seeing anybody popping up. There you go. Commissioner Powell, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Melissa, I apologize, Dickens, that I did have a couple of questions that I said I was going to email over to you, and it was a really long list, but I'm not going to ask like all of them. I'll still just ask them privately because it's just more tech stuff. But earlier in our previous meeting, we were talking about septic tanks, and there was an issue that we were brought up about like the feasibility, of there was a lot that was going to get split. That it was going to have to be connected to, like the county water system, but with policy, I think it's here it is, 5521. It says that if wastewater services is not available, or feasible, a property site permitted and maintain, properly sited, permitted, and maintained septic tanks are suitable alternative. So, which of these would take precedent in that situation? And then, what would be the test when, or the measuring stick for the term feasible?
So there is another policy that I want to point you to that also speaks to the topic that came up this afternoon, and that's 4.2.1. And I think that is more closely related to some of the discussion this afternoon. But generally, we would consider, if there is no wastewater, for example, in the rural area, then that would be where this 5.2.1 would come in. We wanted to have a policy that, explained that if septic tanks are in the right location, meet all of the environmental criteria and are maintained, then they are permissible. Of course, they are permissible primarily in the rural area. There has been some board direction to try to not only connect existing septic tanks to public wastewater, county wastewater, but also to try to prevent or at least mitigate any new septic tanks going in the urban service area. So this policy 5.2.1 is primarily crafted to speak to those properties in the rural area.
Okay. Well, I understand like again, like the spirit of the other, amendment in this. I just think that it would be great if we could at least have somewhere in the code, if it could be considered, not now, I don't want to throw a monkey wrench in approving something, because I think pretty much, 95% of everything in here I really love. But if we could somehow define, what is, feasible, and put like a dollar figure on that, or a distance figure, because, based on a dollar figure, because again, it would be really cost burdensome for a homeowner within the urban surface area, to have to dig 1,000 feet because they want to subdivide their 3-acre piece of land in Seffner, or right there on the edge of in Dover, or Valrico even, because there's still some pretty large tracts out there, and they want a family member, whoever, even just want to subdivide it and sell it, and they shouldn't be prohibited from that, in my opinion. So I would like to see that in here, and I don't know if that's something that we can do, because the policy that you did point to, which kind of scares me, it has in there the last 3 letters are, or the phrase there is, it's determined by county utility staff. So I just don't know how they would, what's the metric there for that?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
So that was one thing. You can finish answering that question if you like.
Sure. So so typically we like the plan to be pretty broad and overarching, and I was able to listen in on the good discussion that was had this afternoon, and we believe that the policy as it's crafted is broad enough and enables the county staff to craft the code in a way that will work within the comprehensive plan. Those details like cost or how feasibility is determined, those are typically something that we would see in the land development code, where we have a few places where there's specifics in the comprehensive plan, but generally we try to keep the regulation language within the land development code. So we will be working with development services. If they have any questions, I'm sure that development services will also be working with county utility staff, but probably the most appropriate place for that kind of criteria would be in the code.
Okay. And I actually, in conjunction with reading All of One Water, I did take the time to read the 2020 Regional Water Supply Plan that Swift Mud, put together, and I think it ties in really nicely with what you all and staff have done in here. And one of the biggest things that I noticed was One Water seems to talk a lot about the quality, which is great. Swift Mud seems to be more on quality, and then we get to handle the quality side of things. But the report talked about, in terms of quality, and the millions of gallons per day that we're using in the Tampa Bay region, and it seems like we actually really have an oversupply, which is great. Like, we're not going to need to worry about running out of water anytime soon, and there's a lot of different projects that are going on to even increase that as it pertains like to agricultural conservation and some other things. But on that, talking about the urban surface area that was brought up a minute ago by Commissioner Green, I think it was. I don't really see a whole lot of opportunity just yet that's in this stuff here, that talks about maybe the ability or the thinking about the expansion of the urban surface area. And one of the questions that popped up was, we have several studies that the Planning Commission is doing right now as it relates to RP2, Waimama Village, the I-4 corridor. And, are any of those studies, have they consulted with you or staff about, like with One Water, and hey, you know what, we need to look at potentially thinking about expanding the urban surface area because we have, these policies in place and, because we have the supply. So I was just curious, how that may have, if that's been a discussion at all.
Sure. So a couple of different points, and the first is that we didn't really mention supply as much in the One Water chapter because that is something that's governed by the Water Management District and Tampa Bay Water, and so because those are more the responsibility of other entities, we did focus a little bit more on quality. So that's probably why you're seeing a little bit of a distinction between our plan and Swiftmud's regional water supply plan. I'm glad that you saw some similarities because statutorily we are required to look at the regional water supply plan and make sure that our comprehensive plan is consistent. So that's good for us moving forward because you'll see some amendments coming forward over the next couple of years that speak to that. It's something that we do every 5 years. With respect to the question on the urban service area, historically and typically the urban service area and its reference to land use changes or land use policies is typically in the future land use element. And so as part of One Water, we were trying to, almost separate the utility question from the land use question because really it should be the land use that's driving the development, not whether or not there are utilities. And so we're trying to get the focus in the conversation back on that. Now, I know that as part of the update to the land use element, which will be coming sometime in the next year, we will be looking at potentially looking at all of our future land use policies and, evaluating whether or not there needs to be updates. And we have been in coordination with the folks managing those studies, the RP2 and the WBR2 studies, the Waimama studies. But from our perspective, it's more of a land use question than a supply question. Because in addition to the water supply issue, there's also questions of transportation, there's questions of services like schools and parks and other entities that are all folded into that urban service area question. So although we have been in close coordination and they have worked with our partners in Hillsborough County government as well, we didn't specifically have a conversation about the expanding the urban service area because of supply.
Right. And I believe that this policy, or one of the policies that you talked about, just because, if we do expand, water connections and utilities, into the rural service area, that doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to go ahead, or we've had facilities that are in the rural area, doesn't mean that we're going to automatically, or that's a reason to, extend the urban surface area. But, when we consider, strategic expansion areas, such as, like the I-4 corridor, I think that's an area that, we're going to see or has the potential for a lot of industrial high density, or I don't know if high density is the right word, but just heavy manufacturing, in that area. And you got to have water for all that stuff, at the end of the day. You can't have any sort of development whatsoever, without water. And I know that in a February meeting with the BOCC earlier this year, they laid out, some policies and some goals that they were wanting to achieve, and one of them was like the expansion, the I-4 corridor area, and that got brought up, a lot. And I just would like to point out to, some of my, fellow commissioners, I just want to make sure that, what we're adopting today, Live with One Water, is done with the understanding that we will, or we may, have to amend this language, down the road in order to accommodate, expanding the urban surface areas. I just wanted to broach that with everyone and then just kind of, get some other, thoughts and opinions on, on that as it relates to One Water.
And if I might, I just would say, yes, you're right, that certainly as we move into the land use element, as well as some of these more specific area studies, it may necessitate changes to these policies. It may end up that that all of these work because we're able to expand the urban service area. And that's part of why we've left them as they are, because we're not quite sure yet exactly what is going to need to be done. It may end up being that we're able to address it through some of the criteria to expand the urban service area that lives in the future land use element, but it also may mean that there are some changes to utility extension policies that are needed. So I definitely think that this is a topic that will probably be revisited in concert with those land use, either the update of the future land use element or those specific studies.
Okay. I mean, would it be viable, and I'm open to hear some other commissioners, but maybe as we, along with approving and giving this recommendation, to the Board of County Commissioners and moving on, the expansion of the urban surface area, and that's certainly their purview. But maybe we're on the planning side of things, and we have to have a certain amount of land, to accommodate, the 600,000 people that we project are going to be moving here, by 2040. And we don't, if Melissa, I think that you had given us a presentation on the amount of available land that we even have left that's, able to be developed, doesn't have entitlements. And I know that we may want to, or some direction from county staff is to, focus on like redevelopment, but you can only redevelop so much. And we only, I think it was 10% land that's remaining in the urban surface area that's available for development. So I just, maybe we could send, along with like some sort of, like letter to the Board of County Commissioners, to accompany this. And I don't know if that's something that would require a motion or not, but, to say that, hey, we're in agreement with this, language and adopting it, but we also, want to consider, the future expansion, like of the urban surface area in conjunction with One Water.
I would say, speaking just for myself to interject at this moment, that I would disagree with my fellow Commissioner Powell in this instance. I think that One Water is a separate issue from the urban service area, which isn't to say that One Water doesn't contribute to the knowledge and information that's used to establish the urban service area boundary. But there are a lot of other things I believe that go into the equation for establishment of the urban service boundary that don't necessarily tie into One Water. And to bring all those things to bear right now to conflate with One Water, I think would be a mistake. I think if we want to have a sit down and talk about the urban service boundary and talk about expanding the urban service boundary, that's a very valid argument to talk about. But I don't know that I would approach that argument from necessarily the angle of water, because there's a lot of other different entry points that are going to come into that argument that we haven't even broached in our two meetings tonight. You know what I mean? And once you start to bring into the once you start to bring up the urban service boundary, you start to kind of introduce those things. So I don't know that I'd cloud these two issues. It seems like the urban service, to me personally, it feels like the urban service boundary and what you're talking about in expansion, which I agree with you. Everything you're saying, Commissioner Powell, I totally agree with. But I feel that that's such a big issue in and of itself that that's something that needs to be tackled, on its own. I don't really see, again, besides the kind of, okay, well, everything's together in the same county, it's all related. Besides that, I don't see the strength of the direct connection to right now say, okay, well, we need to make sure that with One Water goes an urban service boundary, expansion look into kind of request. To me, I don't feel that they're that strongly tied. And that's, just me.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just think that this is a really good, since this is new, the first major update that we've had, to the comp plan since, 08, that there's, water's everything. And so you can't have sorry about that. You can't have any future development, without water. And I think that I hear what you're saying, but I just think that this is, the two go hand in hand. And I would love to have seen something in our language, or in One Water, that, talked about, identifying, some strategic areas, for, I'm not talking like overall expansion, but, focused areas on where we would like to see that, happen and have that ability, to do that, once the time was ready. So anyone else want to chime in? I'd love to hear it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Anyone else? Anyone else have any thoughts on the One Water submission? Nope. Here we go. Commissioner Dowdy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, there's a lot of good things in this One Water chapter, and I appreciate the fact that there's a whole section on low impact development and requiring. I noticed in there that it says it's requiring manuals and instructions by 2024 on how to incorporate low impact development into our proposed developments that are going to come down the pike. And there are a number of areas scattered throughout where it talks about exploring incentives, whether it be for low impact development or whether it be for potable water, wastewater, stormwater, et cetera. And I kind of think, it kind of touches on what Commissioner Powell was getting at. I agree with Commissioner Joseph that there are a lot of issues that go into the urban service area, but I think one of the main ones was being able to provide water and wastewater services without an exorbitant extra cost to the county in order to provide those services. So in thinking about the sustainability of things, I've been taking some courses from the Institute of Sustainable Infrastructure, and they talk about the interconnectivity of all of these things, and how some reductions in one particular area, it has ripple impacts throughout the rest of the area. So, I'd like to see a number of incentives, I guess, developed that would basically force the issue in a number of areas. While I can agree with Commissioner Powell that you can only redevelop so much, there are a number of areas. I think we could probably all name places that we used to drive by. Maybe we don't drive by them anymore right now. That it's a developed area, but it hasn't been anything of real use to anybody in years. It's just 10 acres of concrete, and it's been there forever. So, I would really like to see incentives that push or favor redevelopment of those underutilized, already developed areas before we go into the pristine, undeveloped areas that we don't have that much left of. I would like to see, and these are just comments for as we go down the road, incentives for the low impact development. I would like to see that the manuals and the incentives that come out of the low impact development or green infrastructure solutions leave room for new technologies that are going to come. Okay, I mean the improvements in these things happen faster than. Okay, we haven't updated this since 2008. Okay, you know, so it happens. A lot of things happen in the meantime, and if we don't have some kind of an exception to at least let's try one, let's do a pilot project and let's see what happens. And you know what? If it works, great, we allow it, and we allow it to happen everywhere. There's a number of things like that I would like to see. And I do have a question. There's one of the you guys know that I do watershed management stuff for 11, and what is it? 4.1.7 says expand the scope of watershed management plans to include water quality and environmental conditions within these areas. I'm not sure if that was, you know, language that had been carried over from another study or not. I know that those plans that we do discuss water quality and environmental, but in recent history they've kind of been separated out and they've been handled as separate type contracts through the county. And I'm kind of curious as to whether this language is going to kind of lump it all together again and force a little bit of extra expenditure for watershed updates. I don't know if you know the answer to that, Melissa.
So thank you, Commissioner Dowdy. I would like to ask one of our county partners who is on the line, and I can't see the attendee list currently, so I apologize, but if either John Lyons or Leland Dykes are on the line, if you could please unmute yourself and respond to Commissioner Dowdy's question.
This is Leland. I'm on the line, but I will defer to John Lyons if he'd like to take the question, or I could answer.
I don't see John in our,
Not available.
yeah, on our list.
Okay. Yes, this is Leland Dykes, Technical Services with the Public Works Administration. Yes, Commissioner. So in most recent years, I guess I would say, when we perform the watershed master plan updates, we have not been also including the water quality components into those master plan updates. And those efforts have primarily been separate initiatives through the water quality group under David Glucksberg, and really more focused on TMDL implementation and compliance for total maximum daily loads. So through adoption of this policy, and I think there is existing language very similar to this in the current comprehensive plan, but it would be our goal to begin incorporating water quality analysis into the watershed master plans and looking for those opportunities to include water quality enhancements and improvements together with flood protection projects as well as transportation projects. And so one of the ways we want to do that is through the watershed master plans, when we're looking to identify flood protection projects, also looking to for opportunities to improve water quality, and analyzing and looking for areas where we may have the greatest need or opportunity for water quality improvements through the watershed master plans. And so we would also have to work through additional funding to do that. And that necessarily hasn't been identified, but that'd be part of the implementation, is to identify and seek funding for incorporating the water quality into the planning process. That answer the question?
Okay. Yes, it does, and I would thank you very much, Leland, for the explanation. And I would tend to agree with you that it should be included. I think there is, at least from my experience, there was always the opportunity to provide a water quality or environmental benefit with just about every flood control project that we designed. So again, going back to the interconnectivity of all of these things, you know, keeping an open mind to the maximum possible benefit of any one of these projects. It's funny. There's a saying that from the Institute of Sustainable Infrastructure that says, you know, we don't need to look at just whether or not we're doing the project right. We need to look at if we're doing the right project. And I would agree with you, whether it's roadway projects, whether it's flood control projects, no matter what it is that the county embarks upon, keeping an eye towards the maximum possible benefits that you could get from that particular project is a good idea. I think I had mentioned it before, a lot of the complete streets initiatives that I didn't think the definition of complete streets was correct unless you added stormwater to it. And I see language in this one water that talks about incorporating green infrastructure in the roadway designs, and I think it's a great thing. So thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Dowdy. Commissioner Powell, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did want to take up all the time, but earlier when we were talking about the capital improvements element in our last meeting, and I had asked the question and brought up about the wastewater line for Gibsonton and why that had not had been on the capital improvements project or list, and it's been approved, it was never funded, and why that's been taken off. And I think, Melissa, you said that someone from county staff was going to be on the line to maybe answer why that was the case. But, and maybe they can, it seems to me that in was it objective like 5.1, 5.12, we have meet or exceed the adopted levels of service for potable water, wastewater, and stormwater as outlined, in the capital improvement, element. To me that, and in a lot of other points in section, in objective 5.1, would really lend to expanding that or upsizing that pipe in order to allow for redevelopment. Since we're not fully there on maybe broaching in the discussion of expanding the USA, if you really want to dive into encouraging infill development, there's no bigger really chunk of land outside of Gibsonton. So I'm curious how we get that in there, or why it hasn't been done, and how do we make it happen.
So that for folks who may be tuning in this evening, but were not present for the discussion this afternoon, your question is essentially, why is the wastewater line that, was it the one that was supposed to replace the low pressure system, the smaller wastewater line? Is that the question?
Yeah, so
in the CIP?
Yeah, like going down Gibsonton Drive right now, just west of the Super Walmart project and the newer Circle K that went in there. From there, all on that side of the road, I believe that's the south side of the road, all the way down, towards 41, past the school and all that on that side of the road, that wastewater line. It's a 4-inch main, and it's at maximum capacity. You can't do any development over there. I had a client who owned a piece of property there, and he can never do anything with it. And we were always told that well, you got to upsize the pipe, and this was 4 years in the making. 4 years ago it was $1.5 million project, and then it got whacked down to $250,000. But with this of being going to be adopted, but maybe it's already actually in our, land development code. But I was just curious why it has not. It's been on our capital improvement project list, but nothing ever happened with it. So if we're really talking about wanting development, I mean, Gibsonton has so much land. I don't know what's happened, what those folks over there may have done to upset anybody, but you can't have any major development over there. So that was, the question was why that hadn't been done, and how we were able to, or how it might to be a project that got back onto like the capital improvements element.
Sure. So I am going to ask Kevin Moran with county staff to respond to some of the questions, but I did want to point everyone to One Water Policy 4.2.2, which does call for this replacement of existing low pressure sewer systems along with private water and wastewater systems by the county. It is something that I know the county is the policy direction is there for them to do it. So I wanted to let everyone know that is being recognized and incorporated into the One Water chapter through that policy. But I'm going to go ahead and ask Kevin Moran to please unmute himself and respond.
Good evening. This is Kevin Moran, a Division Director for Environmental Management Division. It's my understanding that the Water Resources Department has delayed the Gibsonton septic to sewer capital program, and that because of funding, I think there are questions about funding due to the impact fees that were recently passed, and the ability to bond those, essentially finance those projects. I think that it's not been stopped, but delayed. And I can confirm that, and we'll get back with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. All right. Do we have any more comments or questions from the commissioners? No. I had a question. Oh, you have Commissioner Kress. Here we go. Let her go.
Just a compliment, when Melissa Dickens was going through how comprehensive and thorough they were and all the different parties that they worked with, I thought that was a very impressive endeavor. So congratulations on a job well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kress. My question was, what comes after this? What's the next big comp plan revision that's coming after this one?
Sure. So we're actually working on a schedule internally now. Our goal is to move forward, probably provided that we check with our county partners and make sure that this is still feasible, but most likely solid waste will be the next element that comes forward. That'll be part of the October cycle of plan amendments. And then we are looking to work with our county partners on environmental and sustainability and the coastal elements as well. And then we are also having, we've already started some discussions with county staff on updates to the housing element, updates to the mobility element, and there have been a number of folks on the Planning Commission side and the county side that have been involved in those conversations. So things are happening behind the scenes. They're just not quite ready to bring forward to you yet.
All right, sounds good. Besides that, I just wanted to echo Commissioner Kress's sentiments. I mean, this has been an immense amount of work, and just you're talking about all the different departments you've worked with and the fact that none of them really shook their fingers too much at you guys. You were able to work with, outside groups, as Mr. Kramer said. I'd like to thank Mr. Kramer for his comments and, his appreciation of staff. It really shows the great job you all do working on all these things and bringing it before us. So I just wanted to say thank you a lot for the hard work. And with that, I don't see any more hands raised in the audience. I don't see any more commissioners appearing. So I will close comments, and I will open the floor for a motion from anyone. Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make that motion, but I don't see the numbers, so I can expand on it. But
2007.
yes, move that we find Comp Plan Amendment 2007 consistent with the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan and move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Green. I have a motion by Commissioner Green. A second coming up from Commissioner Dowdy. All right, a motion for consistency from Commissioner Green, a second by Commissioner Dowdy. Are there any more comments or discussion on this item, my commissioners? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to go on ahead and take a roll call vote.
Joseph,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Cardenas,
Aye.
Dix,
Aye.
Dowdy,
Aye.
Green,
Aye.
Press,
Yes.
Marina, Powell.
Yes.
Motion carried 8-0.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Dickens. Our
Thank you.
next item on the list is number 3, HCCPA 20-14, the context classification text amendment, presented by Ms. Katrina Corcoran. Hello.
Hello, good evening, commissioners.
Hello.
Waiting for my ability to share my screen. Sorry. Having some technical difficulties here.
We see it, Dana.
I just lost the view of my PowerPoint. I apologize. I can only see you guys. Okay, so everyone can see that?
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Katrina Corcoran, Planning Commission staff. I'm here today to present the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan text amendment on context classification. This is an action item and a resolution will be provided for your vote. Is this moving for you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Apologize, I'm definitely having some technical difficulties here. Melissa Dickens, do you have my presentation ready that you could pull it up for me?
Yes, I do. If you could just give me 1 minute, I'll get it right up.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, and I apologize, commissioners.
Is it showing now?
Mine is now working, but I don't know if it's showing on your screen, Melissa.
Yes, we see a presentation. I'm not sure who's showing it, but we see it.
Yeah.
Do you see the background slide?
We do see the next slide with the background.
Okay.
Shows it on the side. Yes.
Okay, I'll go ahead. I'm not sure if it's my screen or Melissa's, but we'll figure that out. So this is a publicly initiated text amendment. It adds a context-based classification plan, which is a place-sensitive approach to roadway design. As you can see from the graphic on the right, context classification takes into consideration the land use surrounding a roadway from a rural classification to a suburban classification to finally a more urban classification. This also helps preserve right-of-way and furthers Vision Zero safety goals. And this is a parallels updates to the Transportation Technical Manual's roadway cross sections. and will provide guidance to the county's access management regulations. So I moved mine. I don't know if you guys can now see the next slide.
I think they may be seeing my screen, Katrina, and I'm gonna attempt not to disconnect again, but I'm gonna try to make it so that they can see the full screen and not
Okay.
just the preview. Lionel's talking, but he's muted, so I assume he's giving me guidance.
I switched Katrina back to presenter. So Katrina, since your screen is working, you can show yours now.
Okay.
There we go.
Can everybody see this? Hopefully the screen is cool there. Okay, so thank you. There are minor text changes to the policies listed on this slide, mainly the addition of the term context-based classification plan and preservation within this objective in these policies to clarify their intent. And of course, now it's no longer moving forward. There are also new policies within this amendment, including policy 154, which includes context classification categories and their definitions within the table, and policy 155, which indicates that the county will coordinate roadway improvements with other jurisdictions. There's also a new definition for context-based classification and the removal of an outdated plan implementation and monitoring section. There is a proposed context-based classification map, map 25A, that will be adopted as a part of this amendment. As you can tell from the legend on the right, the green lines, C1 and C2, are the most rural classification. The orange lines, C3C, are commercial suburban. The yellow lines, C3R, are suburban residential. The brown lines, C3T, are suburban town. The purple lines, C4, are urban. The pink lines, C5, are more urban. The bordered pink lines are C5, special district, which are for classifications that don't fit neatly into, or for roadways which don't fit neatly into the other classifications. The red lines are C6, which are the most urban classification. There is also a disclaimer within this map, within the full map in your packet, that indicates that the county worked with the jurisdictions for the roadways within their purview, and that C5 special district and C6 are only used within the city of Tampa per their specifications. We did receive agency comments from the city of Tampa, Temple Terrace, Plant City, and Hillsborough Area Regional Transit, and county staff did make updates to the map based on jurisdictional comments. Tampa Bay Water, Hillsborough County Public Schools, and the Environmental Protection Commission of Hillsborough County responded but indicated that they had no comments. For the consistency review of this amendment, staff found the amendment consistent with the following goals, objectives, and policies, including Transportation Goal 1, Objective 1.3, 1.5, Policy 158, 159, 1511, 518, and Intergovernmental Coordination Objective 2, Policy 2.1, and 2.5. These goals, objectives, and policies specify the importance of new tools and standards to complement the existing corridor plan, coordinated transportation and land use planning, a place-sensitive approach to roadway improvements, commitment to transportation safety, and the importance of cross-jurisdictional coordination. These classifications were coordinated with the future land use elements land use categories as indicated within the technical memo within your packets. And county staff also coordinated on the livable community elements community plans. As indicated in Melissa Dickens' slides, there are some next steps for this amendment. We'll be going to the August 27th BOCC transmittal hearing. Pending that, it would be moving through the rest of August and October for state and regional agency review and comment. And October 22nd, there will be the BOCC adoption public hearing. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission find the proposed text change for Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2014, consistent with the future Hillsborough Comprehensive Plan for unincorporated Hillsborough County, and forward this recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. This concludes my presentation. I thank you for your time and your patience with my technical difficulties tonight. I would also like to indicate that county staff, Matt Lewis and John Patrick, are also on this call for any questions that you may have related to this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Corcoran. Excellent presentation. I will open it up at this time to input from the public. Does anybody listening or watching out there have any input, any comments or questions? Please raise your hand. Remember, you have to raise your hand to be recognized. I don't see any hands going up. So I will move on to commissioners. Commissioners, are there any questions or does anyone have any input on this one? Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Katrina. I think this is a great presentation. I think this is long overdue. Melissa will remember me sort of egging her on about, about our efforts to coordinate transportation and land use issues. And I think this is a step in that direction, certainly. A big step in my opinion. But I did have a question. If Matt's on the line, I have a question for him regarding the specific criteria that was used to for to identify these different classes. Or
Hello,
Katrina.
Commissioners.
Okay, he's there.
Hello, Commissioners. Matt Lewis with Hillsborough County's Community and Infrastructure Planning Department. What we did, if you're familiar with the FDOT methodology for context classification, what they do is they start with the existing uses in the area. They look at the roadway connectivity, and then as a secondary measure, they move into future land use. And you can understand why they would do that, because they have to deal with hundreds of jurisdictions and they can't start with future land use. They have to start with something manageable. Because we're just one jurisdiction, we started with future land use. We started with what is the plan for the particular area that we're looking at. So in the comprehensive plan, and Melissa, I'm sorry, but I cannot remember the name of the table exactly right now, but there is a table that separates the land use categories into rural, suburban, and urban categories. We started with that table to identify where the C1, C2, C3, and C4 classifications were. Then we drilled down into whether or not the C3 was commercial or residential, and into the community plans themselves to see where they identified community centers, community gathering places, basically the community plans downtowns, to further refine whether or not something was a C3 town or should be a C4 because of the community plan desires for the area. And then it was just a matter of making sure the lines on the map are legible.
Okay. Now I was curious, is you know, if you in fact identified any for any classification, any sub classifications within that. Or for obviously it was easy just to make a clear distinction, but I was just curious if there were any, you know, any of these that look like they could have multiple sub classifications associated with them.
I think when there's a way to look at this where you say, how many C's is enough C's? And as you start adding more subclassifications, you start adding less clarity to the map. But there are policies in there. I think one of them was 133 that said design roads appropriate to the context classifications, that directs further room to get into subclassifications, so that perhaps in a C4 you would have both a main street and a neighborhood typology, where you would treat the street amenities differently.
Okay. Okay. All right. Good. I believe DOT also uses a classification that distinguishes between rural and urban roadway sections, let's say. Was that one of the criteria that was used?
Absolutely, yeah. C1 and C2 are your more rural roadway classifications. And then as you go higher, C3, suburban, and then C4, it's more urban. And then as you get into the city of Tampa, you get more of the downtown types.
Okay. All right. Good. Good. Thank you. Yes, but I do believe this is long overdue, and welcome it to this round of comp plan amendments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Green. Are there any more comments or input? Commissioner Kress.
I want to echo, I think this is a great step in the right direction. I don't remember, I think I missed the meeting where we had a briefing on this, so I'm coming in a little bit cold. I sit on the MPO's Livable Roadways Committee. I have to assume that you've collaborated with the MPO on this. I don't remember it coming before the Livable Roadways Committee, and maybe it wouldn't, it seems appropriate to me, but I just wondered if it was kind of overlaid with some of the other efforts that are going on, for instance, like the Vision Zero and high crash corridors and where those key economic centers are, for instance, like the USF area, obviously downtown and West Shore, the transit corridors. It feels like it could, a lot of our roads are going to be more urban than maybe this first stab at it allows for. So I don't know whether there's a plan to continually update it or what that is, but it just seems like it needs a little more of an urban lens to it.
Thank you, Commissioner Kress. I will give Matt or JP an opportunity to comment on this more thoroughly. But this was, we have been collaborating with MPO staff. Internally, we provided comments on the amendment to county staff. And as far as my understanding is that the map will be updated as roadways change and future land uses change and roadways evolve to take into consideration changing land uses that might result in changing context. However, I'll let Matt and JP comment on your questions.
Yeah, and that speed management study that I thought was so groundbreaking seems like it would be really relevant to this effort as well.
I will also say before they speak that I believe the county has hired Paul Flores, who assisted with that, to look at the roadway cross sections that are a parallel update to this. But again, they can speak to that and correct me if I'm wrong.
Great.
So, Commissioner, this is John Patrick, Hillsborough County Community and Infrastructure Planning. So just to add to what Katrina just mentioned about the cross section. So this is the first step in connecting transportation and land use. So now we have defined the context for each road and where this road would lie. The next step is to come up with a design that takes into consideration Vision Zero, the speed management, all the other activities that's been going on with the MPO to bring that together and create cross sections and update our technical manual, which is also overdue right now. It doesn't go with the context that we are proposing. So that would be an update that we will be doing. So this is just the first step of it. The next step is the technical manual. Then we have to update the access management that brings into the context of where the land use is and how we design sites. So that brings into that aspect the context into access management. Also, we will have to update our corridor preservation plan for future corridors. What corridors are required? How much land do we preserve for those new corridors? So it has this amendment is starting, and there are several ripple effects to this to completely implement these aspirational goals of this comp plan language that we are proposing.
Okay.
And,
Sounds like you thought it through. So thank you for that information and great job.
and I would just add on that the policies do call for this to be updated every 5 years with the long-range transportation plan. And also that we did get feedback from the city of Tampa in particular on the roads within the city, and the county staff reflected the changes to those roads within the city that the city requested.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Kress. Commissioner Marino. Oh, we can't hear you. No. What's going on? All
You could
right.
type this comment in the chat if you'd like. Maybe.
Maybe I'll give it a little second here longer, see if there are any other. Here he is. He's back. You got it?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just a matter of blowing in the slot, and that made it work again, like a Nintendo controller. Well, I just want to thank the staff for working on this, and the point that Melissa just made about working with the city, especially because the city had their comments there. The city is working on reclassifying some of their streets. Some of the roads that were identified that are in the city are very unique. Obviously, Bayshore Boulevard, everyone thinks of, but there's a few other ones on there. So I'm glad that you noted that. But then the timeliness of this too. One of the first virtual meetings that the city council had when this all started was a discussion on speed management following one of the recent incidents on Bayshore Boulevard. And we're not going to have the means to redesign every road, but we do have the means to reclassify every road. And we do have the means to start to lower these speed limits. And, it's steps like this that are going to make the roads a lot safer. So I just want to thank the staff for working on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Marino. Are there any more questions on this item? Any more input, comments from the commissioners? Not seeing any. I just wanted to add for my own part, obviously, you've been dealing with me for a while with this, Katrina, so I'm not, this isn't my most favorite one of the items that we're dealing with tonight. I probably still, after much ado, these long weeks, I've been tossing it back and forth in my head. I'm probably still not going to support this one, simply because, again, I just feel that it's moved pretty quick. And I support context classifications, and I understand the necessity for it in our community. But I believe, like one of the items we were looking at in our previous meeting earlier, the way that we're doing it is something that I'm not necessarily in agreement with right here. So I just wanted to make that statement really quick, just so that it's on the record and known that I am in opposition to this. But other than that, if there are no more comments from our commissioners and no more hands from the public, I will close comments and open it up to a motion from the commissioners. Anyone? Here we go.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Bernstein, is that your voice?
That's me.
I can
Yes,
hear your
sir.
voice, yeah. All right.
I was going to make a motion that we approve HCCPA as consistent with the comprehensive plan amendments.
Very good. I have a motion for consistency from Commissioner Bernstein. Second from Commissioner Green. No further comment or discussion on it. I will ask the clerk to go ahead and make a roll call vote.
Joseph,
Nay.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Cardenas, Hicks,
Aye.
Dowdy,
Aye.
Green,
Aye.
Kress,
Yes.
Marina,
Aye.
Powell,
Aye.
and Cardenas. Motion carried 7-1. Commissioner Joseph voted no.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Ms. Corcoran, for a great presentation. That looks like it. So I will go ahead and adjourn the Hillsborough County Plan Amendments meeting, and we will move into our next one. All right, welcome to the August 10th, 2020 public hearing on the Planning Commission of Tampa Comprehensive Plan Amendments. We thank you for attending this meeting. Your comments and participation are encouraged. To minimize feedback in the audio, all participants in the meeting will be muted until it is their opportunity to speak. Planning commissioners should unmute themselves and turn on their camera to indicate they would like to speak. You can also send a chat to Melissa if you would prefer to be recognized that way. Please be sure to state your name at the beginning of your remarks for the benefit of the clerk. There will be an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments. Please click the raise hand button illustrated on the screen. You will be unmuted when it is your turn to speak. Please wait until the chair calls on you to begin speaking. State your name at the beginning of your comments and adhere to the time limits. Members of the public may also ask questions to staff at any time during the meeting by typing them into the questions chat box illustrated on the lower right of the screen. If anyone has any difficulties or is watching via HTV and would like to speak during public comment portion of the meeting, please call telephone number 813-273-3774, extension 359. That's 813-273-3774, extension 359. For those of you who are not familiar with our process, the meeting will be conducted as follows. The agenda item will be introduced. Staff will give their presentation with a 15-minute time limit. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation with a 15-minute time limit. Following the presentations, members of the public may address the Planning Commission when recognized by the chair. Public comment will be heard for 3 minutes per person. The applicant will also be afforded a 3-minute period for rebuttal or response. Planning commissioners will ask questions. Public comment will be closed. Then upon a motion, a second, and discussion, a vote will be taken. I ask the clerk to go ahead and please call roll.
Good evening. Joseph?
Here.
Bernstein?
Here.
Cardenas? Dix?
Here.
Dowdy?
Here.
Green?
Present.
Kress?
Here.
Marina?
Here.
Powell?
Here.
Dickerson?
This is Matt Pleasant sitting in for Amber Dickerson.
Thank you. Rodriguez?
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum?
Thank you. All right. So the first item up, and I think, Mr. Hay, I was informed that you were going to be presenting straight through, and then we would come back after the presentations and do votings and such. Are you planning on pausing in between to see if we have comments, or? Oh, can't hear you.
There's a pause after each one for you guys to take action.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And we will start with item number 2, CACPA 2011, and hand it over to you,
All right.
Mr.
Thank you very much. Good evening, commissioners. Can you see my screen? Yes? Okay. The next 7 amendments, it's TACPA 2011 through 2017. They're all related to the ongoing parks update for the city of Tampa. Here we have the 7 locations. 2011, it's Grant Park. That's over here in East Tampa. Then 2012, we'll move up to Williams Park, which is just to the northwest of Grant Park up here. Then 2013, we moved down to South Tampa near West Shore. 2014, we moved back into downtown and we'll look at Oaklawn Cemetery. And then 2015, we move up to Old Seminole Heights and Hillsborough River. 2015 is Patterson Street Park, and just to the east of that is Park Circle Park, which is 2016. And then we slightly move over to the west for 2017 Purity Springs Park. First, a little background concerning all 7 amendments. This process was initiated by Tampa City Council. The council directed the Planning Commission staff in cooperation with City of Tampa to begin to recognize all city-owned parks on the future land use map. Each of the 7 parks up for consideration tonight are listed on the city's dedicated park list, which is located in Chapter 16, Section 91, in the city's Code of Ordinances. Tonight, all 7 amendments would recognize existing parks or open space with the Recreation Open Space Future Land Use category. This category is designated to recognize lands either publicly or privately owned, dedicated for recreational opportunities. As we typically do, we send all of these 7 amendments to our partner reviewing agencies, and none of them raised any concerns with the proposed request. Excuse me. Since all of these requests are for the recreation open space future land use category and are all publicly owned facilities, staff found that the following policies apply to all 7 of the amendments. The comprehensive plan is supportive of providing recreational opportunities and open space options to surrounding neighborhoods, and staff found all 7 requests consistent with the number of policies related to recreational opportunities in the city's comprehensive plan. So our first one tonight is 2011. It's Grant Park. It's in the Central Tampa Planning District, more specifically the Grant Park neighborhood. Here we have an aerial of the subject site. Here's the subject site outlined in red. East 32nd Avenue is to the north. North 53rd Street is to the west. North 54th Street is to the east. And then we have West Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard to the north and North 50th Street to the west. You could see the whole surrounding area is single family detached in character, and then you get some industrial uses to the north. Here we're looking southeast across Grant Park from near the intersection of East 32nd Avenue and North 53rd Street. Now we're looking south down North 53rd Street. Grant Park is located to the left of the photo. And then we're looking southwest across Grant Park from near the intersection of East 32nd Avenue and North 54th Street. Here we have the adopted future land use map. The subject site and all these properties in brown surrounding it are all designated that residential 20. To the north, this pink color within the city of Tampa on the south side of East Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard is the community mixed use 35 future land use category. This blue line represents the city's jurisdictional boundary. So outside of that is unincorporated county. The pink in unincorporated county is community mixed use 12. And then we've got some residential 12 to the east, unincorporated county, represented by that gold. Here we've got the subject site if that open space future land use category is approved. And currently under the residential 20 future land use category, the subject site can be considered for 62 dwelling units or a maximum of 68,171 square feet of non-residential uses. These maximums would be removed and all future uses would need to be recreational oriented. So based on that, your Planning Commission staff recommends that TA CPA 2011 be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. That's that one.
All right, thank you very much. Any comments from the public? No hands raised. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Seeing no one popping up, I'll open it up to motions from the commissioners on this item. Do I hear a motion for TACPA 2011? Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the proposed map amendment TACPA 2011 be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 20 and 40 Comprehensive Concept Plan.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Powell for finding of consistency, a second by Commissioner Marino. Any more discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask that the clerk call a vote.
Joseph,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Cardenas, Dix,
Here. Aye.
I apologize. Was that Cardenas?
No, it's Dix.
Oh, okay. I thought someone said here. I'm sorry. Dowdy,
Aye.
Green,
Aye.
Kress,
Yes.
Marina,
Aye.
Powell.
Yes.
Motion carried 8-0.
Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Hay.
All right. The next amendment is TACPA 2012. It's Williams Park. It's located within the Central Tampa Planning District and then the Eastern Heights neighborhood. Here we have the aerial. The site is outlined in red. We've got East Osborne Avenue to the south. East Ellicott Street actually runs through a portion of the park on the north side. We've got North 40th Street to the west, Hillsborough Avenue to the north, and we also have James Elementary to the northwest, and this is Williams Middle, right here. Here we're looking northeast from East Ellicott Street toward Williams Middle School. Here we're looking west toward North 43rd Street across Williams Park from East Ellicott. This is East Ellicott over here on the right. And then we're looking northeast from East Osborne Avenue. This is where the pool and water amenity facility is. This site is, as you can see, it's got mostly the recreation open space on the south side, and then we've got some light industrial on the north, represented by that, that gray color. Blue is public, semi-public, and then we've got residential 10 to the west and south in that tan color. So if the amendment is finally approved, the entire park would now be recreation open space. Currently, the subject site is mostly designated that rec open space with an approximately 1.21 acre northern portion designated as light industrial. Under that light industrial future land use designation, the portion of the subject site could be considered for a maximum of 79,061 square feet of non-residential uses. This removes that. The maximum would be removed and all future uses would need to be recreationally oriented. And Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment TACPA 2012 be found consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any comments from members of the public? Or even members of the public? Commissioners, any comments from the planning commissioners? Questions? Seeing none, I will close comments and open the floor up to entertain motions from the commissioners. Commissioner Dowdy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move that we find proposed map amendment TACPA 20-12 consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Dowdy for consistency and a second by Commissioner Green. Are there any further discussion or comments, commissioners? Seeing none, I'll ask that the clerk take a roll call vote.
Joseph,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Cardenas, Dix,
Aye.
Dowdy,
Aye.
Green,
Aye.
Kress,
Yes.
Marina,
Aye.
Powell.
Yes.
Motion carried 8-0.
Thank you. All right, back to you again, Mr. Hay.
All right, the next one is, we move down to South Tampa, TA CPA 2013. This is Sunset Park. It's in the South Tampa Planning District, more specifically the Sunset Park neighborhood. Here we have an aerial of the subject site. You could see the majority of the site is Lake Kipling. But to the north, we have a West Sunset Boulevard. This is West Shore Boulevard that comes down and goes around the lake. And then we've got West Browning Avenue on the south side. This is predominantly single-family detached, all surrounding the site. Here we're looking southwest from near the intersection of Southwest Shore Boulevard and West Sunset Boulevard. Here we're looking south down South Parkview Street. Sunset Park and Lake Kipling are over here on the left. And then we're looking west down West Sunset Boulevard, and Sunset Park is over here on the left. Here we have the adopted future land use map. It's hard to see, but underneath the blue, it's that residential 6 represented by the yellow, and you can see the entire neighborhood is that residential 6. So if approved, it would take this property to that recreation open space represented by the green. It is rare when we see the max, actually, hold on. Currently under the residential 6 future land use category, the subject site can be considered for 15 dwelling units or a maximum of 39,334 square feet of non-residential uses. That'd be hard to get with the majority of the site composed of that lake. All these maximums would be removed, and all future uses would need to be recreationally oriented. So based on that, Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment TA CPA 2013 be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Hay. Are there any comments from the public? Seeing none, I will open it up to commissioners. Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Seeing no one, I will close the comment section and open it up to motions. Anyone like to make a motion? Commissioner Dowdy.
I'd like to move amendment TA CPA 2013 consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
Got a motion for consistency by Commissioner Dowdy. I have a second.
I'll second that motion.
I have a second by Commissioner Bernstein. Is there any further discussion on the item? Seeing none, I'll ask that the clerk take a roll call vote.
Joseph,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Cardenas, Dix,
Aye.
Dowdy,
Aye.
Green,
Aye.
Kress,
Yes.
Marina,
Aye.
Powell.
Yes.
Motion carried 8-0.
Thank you. TACPA 2014, back to you, Mr. Hay.
Yes, the next one is 2014. It's Oak Lawn Cemetery, located within the Central Tampa Planning District, and more specifically the Central Business District. Here we have the subject site. This is East Harrison Avenue. We've got North Florida Avenue to the west. There's also the Marion Transit Center To the northwest, then you've got Interstate 275 to the north, and this is North Orange Avenue that feeds into downtown. You might be wondering why this portion wasn't included. It's actually a different cemetery. I didn't know that. It's St. Louis Cemetery. It's owned by the Catholic Church. So that's why that back portion isn't included. Here we're looking northeast across Oak Lawn Cemetery from the East Harrison Street entrance. Here we're looking northeast from Oak Lawn Cemetery toward the adjacent Greater Bethel Missionary Baptist Church. The interstate is over here on the left. And then here we're in the cemetery looking northwest into the Marion Transit Center. Here's the adopted future land use map. This kind of rust color, that's all that central business district future land use category. You have some rec open space already existing to the east of the site. Then as you move into the Encore development, that's that regional mixed use 100. And then to the north of the interstate, as you head up into Tampa Heights, the red represents community commercial 35. And then this is some residential 83. So here we have this Oak Lawn Cemetery as rec open space if it's finally approved. And it is rare when we see that the maximum potentials are not applicable. An explanation, I guess, is a little warranted. Under the adopted central business district designation, the site is not guided by floor area ratio or unit count, but is guided by design criteria and FAA height limits. The CBD district allows for a wide range of commercial, residential, and office uses. The requested recreational open space category also does not have a limit. Any development is highly restricted to recreational uses only, and any structures must be compatible with surrounding development and must be recreationally oriented. So based on that, Planning Commission staff recommends to you that TA CPA 2014 be found consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Hay.
Thank you.
Are there any comments from the public? No hands raised. I'll open it up to commissioners. Any questions or comments? Are those questions or comments, or is that a motion?
Quick question.
Okay, Commissioner Green, go ahead.
Thank you. I guess, David, my question has to do with classifying cemeteries, let's say, as a recreation and open space land use category, and I was just curious as to why that is, particularly because cemeteries that is, I'm not sure if I'm describing it right, but that's a sort of a perpetual or a perpetuity type of land use, let's say. And why isn't it sort of distinguished as such?
Well, under the how the future land use categories are divided up, that's why the category has open space after it. It's considered, even though it's used as a cemetery, that it's dedicated toward open space. It is historically designated as well, so this cemetery would not be going anywhere, unlike other ones we've seen recently. But yeah, there is no separate designation for cemeteries. There are some other cemeteries that you will be seeing as part of this amendment process in the future. They are also listed under the dedicated parks list in the Land Development Code, at least the city-owned ones. There are other cemeteries that are privately owned and would retain their future land use categories. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, well, you sort of touched on a topic that, of course, is on everybody's mind these days, and you said it's not going anywhere. But in the past, of course, we know that was not the case. But so even as we discover lost cemeteries, let's say, or abandoned cemeteries, I mean, are we obligated to classify them in the same way?
Well, remember, I think a lot of the ones that we've seen recently be found were privately owned cemeteries that were not kept up by their owners and were then sold to other development interests. The rec open space, it would be up to that private applicant if they wanted, if the private applicant wanted to, it would meet the criteria for the rec open space category, but it would be up to that private property owner to proceed with those potential amendments. Because remember, the rec open space, it doesn't have to be a park. We see that down in the Palmacia Country Club. That's a private recreation facility. Not all of us can get and go play golf on Palmacia Country Club. So they don't really have to be publicly dedicated. They could be private.
Okay, and of course, one of the reasons I'm asking the question is because with the discovery of Zion Cemetery on Housing Authority property, which is a public entity, let's say, does that in any way have any bearing on the classification regarding whatever they do with it?
Well, again, I do think that if the Housing Authority wanted to seek an amendment to this category, I think the way that it's defined in the comprehensive plan and that how we've seen it used in other areas of the city, it could be eligible for the rec open space category as it's defined in the comp plan.
Okay.
But it would really be up to the Housing Authority to seek that. They're a separate entity, and this was really initiated to bring in the city-owned parks into the rec open space category.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Green. I saw Commissioner Kress. Yes, you have a question?
I'm ready to make a motion when you are.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let me just check one more time. No one else has any questions, comments? Going once, going twice. All right. Open for motions, Commissioner Kress.
This is one of my absolute favorite little hidden spots in downtown, so I wanted to make the motion that TACPA 2014 be found consistent with the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Kress. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Green, second by Commissioner Green. I'd ask that the clerk call roll call on this one, please.
Joseph,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Cardenas, Dix,
Aye.
Dowdy,
Aye.
Green,
Aye.
Kress,
Yes.
Marina,
Yes.
Powell.
Yes.
Motion carried 8-0.
You. 2015 to you, Mr. Hay.
All right, the next one, TACPA 2015. This is Patterson Street Park. It's in the central Tampa planning district, and more specifically, the old Seminole Heights neighborhood. Here we have the aerial. It's kind of hard to see. It was lots of trees up there. This is East Patterson Street. Of course, this is the Hillsborough River. We've got North Nebraska Avenue to the west. East River Cove Street is across the way on the north side of the river. And then we've got East Park Circle over here, which we'll be seeing a little later. Here we're looking northwest across a portion of Patterson Street Park toward Hamilton Heath Drive. Here we're looking south from Patterson Street Park toward Patterson Street. This is Patterson Street. And you can see there's homes that look right into the park. And then here we are looking northeast from Patterson Street Park into the Hillsborough River. So here we have the adopted future land use map. You can see the entire area is under this kind of like tan color. It's the residential 10. You've got some rec open space on the other side of the river, the Hillsborough River. So if approved, this would recognize Patterson Street Park with that recreational open space. Currently under that residential 10 future land use category, the subject site can be considered for 9 dwelling units or maximum of 14,941 square feet of non-residential. These maximums would be removed and all future uses would need to be recreationally oriented. So based on that, your staff recommends that the proposed map amendment TA-CPA 2015 be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hay. Are there any volunteers for questions, comments from the public? I don't see any hands raised. I will open it up to commissioners now for questions or comments on this item. Seeing none, I will go ahead and close comments and open it up for motions on this item 2015.
I'm prepared to make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Bernstein, yes, go ahead.
I would move that the commission vote in favor of finding TA-CPA 20-15 as consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you. I have a motion for consistency by Commissioner Bernstein. Is there a second?
Be happy to, Mr. Chairman.
Who was that? Was that Commissioner
Thank
Dix? All right. A motion by Commissioner Bernstein, a second by Commissioner Dix, and I would ask that the clerk go ahead and call a roll call vote.
Joseph?
Aye.
Bernstein?
Aye.
Cardenas? Dix?
Aye.
Dowdy?
Aye.
Green? Commissioner Green? Kress?
Yes.
Marina?
Aye.
Powell? Commissioner Powell? Motion carried 6-0.
Ready for the next one? 2016. This is Park Circle Park. It's just slightly to the east of the one we just saw. It's in the Central Tampa Planning District and also the Old Seminole Heights neighborhood. Here's where Patterson Street Park was. See, we've just moved to the east. This is East Park Circle. Again, the Hillsborough River. It's a small lot right on the river. Here we're looking north into the park from East Park Circle. Here we're looking southeast from the park toward East Parks. Looking south from Park Circle Park, you can see the residential. And here, like the other one, it's all resident. The parcel and all the properties around it are residential 10. This would recognize the rec open space. Currently under that Res 10, the subject site can be considered for 2 dwelling units or a maximum of 3,049 square feet of non-residential uses. These maximums would be removed and all uses would need to be recreationally oriented. So therefore, your staff recommends the TA-CPA 2016 be found consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hay. I will open the floor up to comments or questions from the public. Don't see any hands raised. I will kick it over to commissioners. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Seeing none, I will go ahead and close comments and open it up for motions. Commissioner Marino.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Chairman. I move that we recommend that the proposed map amendment TACPA 2016 be found consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you, Commissioner Marino. Second by Commissioner Dowdy. I have a motion for consistency by Commissioner Marino, a second by Commissioner Dowdy. I will ask the clerk to go on ahead. Well, before I do that, I just want to make sure, is Commissioner Powell on the line still? Are you able to?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Okay,
here.
I had accidentally muted him during the last vote, so I apologize for that. But I'll ask the clerk to go ahead and take a roll call vote now on this item. Thank you.
Joseph,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Cardenas, Dix,
Aye.
Dowdy,
Aye.
Green,
Aye.
Kress, Commissioner Kress, Marino,
Aye.
Powell.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, thank you. Back to you, Mr. Hay, for 20-17.
All right, the last park one for this round is TACPA 2017. It's Purity Springs Park within the University Planning District, and then more specifically the Lowry Park Central neighborhood. Here we have an aerial. This is North Florida Avenue, of course, the Hillsborough River. This right after you go over the hump, you take a left down North River Shore Drive, and the park is located back here next to some multifamily residential. And then as you can see, it goes down to single family detached as you move west. Here we're looking west from North River Shore Drive across a portion of the park to some residential uses. Here we're looking northwest from North River Shore Drive into the park. There's the actual spring. And then looking south from North River Shore Drive, we're looking at Hillsborough River. It was pretty interesting. This one, they actually bottled the water and sold it for like 20 or 30 years from this spring. So it was an interesting little fact there. The majority of the site is blue, which represents the public, semi-public. It's this back portion that's designated as residential 35. You could see to the west, you have the residential 10, and then actually out on Florida Avenue, it's that actually urban mixed use 60 future land use category. So it gets pretty intensive as you go east. And then here we are with this would be now rec open space. Currently, the subject site is mostly designated that public, semi-public with an approximate 0.2 acre northern portion designated as residential 35. Under that R35 future land use designation, the portion of the subject site could be considered for up to 7 dwelling units or a maximum of 5,227 square feet. This will remove all that, and all future any future development would have to be recreationally oriented. So based on that, staff recommends that the proposed map amendment TACPA 2017 be found consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Mr. Hay, all right. Any input from the public? Let's see. Any hands raised? Any input from commissioners? Comments, questions? Seeing no one and hearing none, I will close comments now and open it up to a motion from the commissioners. Anyone willing to make a motion on this one, 20-17? Commissioner Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Move that we find Comp Plan Amendment, Tampa Comp Plan Amendment 20-17 consistent with the goals and objectives and policies of the Imagine 2040 Tampa Comprehensive Plan.
Okay.
Was that a second by Commissioner Powell?
Yes.
All right, I have a motion for consistency from Commissioner Green and a second of that motion by Commissioner Powell. Is there any further discussion of this item? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to go on ahead and call a roll call vote.
Joseph,
Aye.
Bernstein,
Aye.
Cardenas, Dix,
Aye.
Dowdy, Commissioner Dowdy, Green,
Aye.
Kress, Commissioner Kress, Marino, Commissioner Marino, Powell,
Yes.
motion carried 5-0.
This is Commissioner Marino. I just want to add it. I would have voted yes. Sorry, I had to step away for a moment.
Well, we needed the vote because we didn't have a quorum until you
Yeah.
joined, Commissioner, so thank you.
And the clerk?
Okay, so for the record, the motion carried 6-0. Commissioner Marino voted yes.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Hay.
Commissioner.
All right, our next item up is item number 9, TACPA 20-18, presented by Mr. Danny Collins.
Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yes.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. This is Tampa Plan Amendment 2018. The subject site is located in the West Shore Planning District, and more specifically, it's in the West Shore Business District. It's shown here on our locational map. Here is an aerial of the subject site and the surrounding properties. You'll see the subject site is located, is outlined in this black color. It's on the north side of West Cypress Street, and it's east of North Himes Avenue. Here is the interstate to the north. The site is directly south of the Midtown Tampa development. You will see predominantly commercial along Cypress, and then as you move east of North Himes, you'll find residential uses. This is looking north across West Cypress Street at the subject site. This is standing on the subject site looking south across West Cypress Street. This is an image looking west on West Cypress Street. The subject site would be on our right. This is a mixed-use development to the north of the subject site. This is the ongoing Midtown Tampa development. Just quick background, this is a privately initiated request. It's a small-scale amendment. It's just under a quarter acre, and the request is to change the future land use from the community commercial 35 to the regional mixed use 100 category. Here is the adopted future land use map. Again, the subject site's outlined in this black color. The red represents the CC 35 category. To the north is the RMU 100. This area went through a plan amendment back in 2018 from the CC 35 to the RMU 100. And again, that's that Midtown Tampa development. You'll see some CC 35 to the south of the subject site. And then as you go on the east side of North Himes, you'll see a transition from the CC 35 and the CMU 35 into that residential 10 category. This is the proposed future land use map showing the site under that regional mixed use 100 category. This is a slide showing the potential impacts of the proposed request. Currently, the site can be considered for 8 potential dwelling units. As proposed, the site can be considered for 24 dwelling units. And the site presently can be considered for 20,000 square feet of non-residential development. As proposed, there'd be an increase in intensity, and the site could be considered for just over 35,000 square feet of non-residential development. The Planning Commission reviewed the request and found it consistent with a number of the policies in the comprehensive plan. More specifically, it was consistent with the city design policies and recognizing the West Shore Planning District as the state's largest office community encouraging mixed-use development. It was also consistent with the city planning strategy, using limited land resources more efficiently and encouraging compact, higher density development. It was also consistent with the mixed-use centers and corridor policies, and also the section on growth and accommodating household employment growth within the city of Tampa. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff found the request consistent with the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. That's all I have, and I believe the applicant is here, and he's going to present shortly. So, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. May I proceed?
Applicant's name?
Sure. My name is Mark Bentley, 401 East Jackson Street, Tampa 33602, and I represent the owner and developer of, there we go, the Midtown Development, which is located at the southeast quadrant of Dale Mabry and I-275. The project is a mixed-use project, and it consists of roughly 1.8 million square feet of office, retail, restaurants, and hotels. The client acquired the subject property, which is 0.24 acres more or less, in 2019 with the intent of incorporating the subject property into the project. This would be done through an amendment to the city's, to the project's PD rezoning that currently governs the subject property. What Danny showed you on the land use plan map, the entire Midtown project, which is roughly 22 or 23 acres, is RMU 100, and that's occurred over probably about the last 20 years as the assemblage has been ongoing. So the project consists of about 30 different parcels. And Danny mentioned, I think on page 7 of his report, most recently in 2018, excuse me, there was an amendment to the comp plan for 3.5 acres directly north of the subject property. So this property under consideration tonight abuts Midtown on its northern boundary and eastern boundary. And the client has ownership and control of all parcels, say from Dale Mabry to Himes on the north side of Cypress, but for a small remnant parcel that was a result of an eminent domain proceeding that's directly west of the subject property. So what I'd like to do, just take a second now and just share my screen and show you how this property relates to the development around it. And this is looking south into the project from I-275. This is the main boulevard into the project from Dale Mabry going to the east. This is the central hub of the project. And now just one. Okay, this is a good shot. This is a perspective looking to the north toward the interstate from Cypress, more or less. So on the right side, you have Himes Avenue. On the left side, you have Dale Mabry. And you can see the subject property would be located just approximately right there. And that would be incorporated into an office building that's under construction at the subject property. So I'll stop showing the screen. So your staff has determined that the amendment is obviously consistent with the city's comp plan. And likewise, the city development design services, they made a determination that the proposed application meets the enumerated criteria that the city council applies in the context of a plan amendment application. So that being said, we would respectfully request that the planning commission make a finding of consistency and forward its resolution to the Tampa City Council. So if you have any questions, I'll gladly attempt to answer them. Thanks.
Mute the microphone.
I will open it up to questions. Thank you, Mr. Bentley, first of all, for the presentation. And at this time, I'll open it up to comments from the public. If there aren't any, I don't see any hands raised. Nope. I will also open it up to questions now from commissioners. Any questions or comments or discussion from the commissioners? Seeing no one appearing, I will close comments and open it up for any. Oh, Commissioner Green.
No, I'm sorry. I was gonna make the motion. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can go ahead and make a motion.
Okay, I don't see the comp plan number, but
20-18, TACPA 2018.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move that we find Tampa Comp Plan Amendment 20-18 consistent with the City of Tampa's comprehensive plan.
All right, I have a motion for consistency from Commissioner Green. Is that a second I see, Commissioner Powell? All right, a second by Commissioner Powell. And if there's no further discussion, commissioners, I will ask that the clerk go on ahead and take a roll call vote on this item.
Joseph?
Aye.
Bernstein?
Aye.
Cardenas? Dix?
Aye.
Dowdy?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Kress? Marina?
Aye.
Powell?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Kress, one more time?
I think she had to leave the meeting.
Okay. Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is Mr. Bentley again. I just want to express my appreciation to Mr. Collins for his professionalism in assisting working on this matter with me. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Collins. And with that, it looks like it's back to you again for our next one, TACPA 20-20.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Our next standing Collins with their planning commission staff. Our next amendment is CPA TPA 2020. This site is also in the West Shore Planning District and within that West Shore Business District. This site is directly to the west of our last plan amendment site. Here is an aerial of the subject site and surrounding properties. You'll see the site, it's outlined in this black color. It's on that north side of West Cypress Street, and just to the west of North Himes, and directly south of that Midtown Tampa development. This is looking at the subject site. This is looking north across West Cypress Street. This is looking east on West Cypress Street. The subject site is to our left. This is looking south across West Cypress Street. This is, just looking south. The subject site would be behind us. This is looking west on West Cypress Street. The subject site would be on our right-hand side. And again, this is that Midtown Tampa mixed-use development that's currently under construction to the north of the subject site. Just a quick background. This is a publicly initiated request by the Planning Commission. Due to the development pattern on that portion of West Cypress Street, the Planning Commission staff found that it would make sense to initiate a a plan amendment to that RMU 100 category. The Planning Commission reached out to the property owner. We mailed 2 letters, and we also spoke with the applicant on the phone, and we held a virtual meeting. The applicant had no opposition to the request, and he wants to move forward with the request. This is a small scale amendment. It's approximately 0.13 acres. Again, it's going from that community commercial 35 to that regional mixed use 100 category. Here's the adopted future land use map. It's under that CC 35 represented by the red color. There's that RMU to the north and west. And then this is the site that we just heard directly to the east of the subject site. And then there's that CC 35 on the south side of Cypress. This is the proposed future land use map showing the subject site under that regional mixed use 100 category. Currently, the site can be considered for 4 residential dwelling units and just under 12,000 square feet of non-residential development. As proposed, site can be considered for 13 dwelling units or just over 20,000 square feet of non-residential development. The Planning Commission reviewed the request and again found it consistent with the city design policies, the city planning strategy, development in mixed-use centers and corridors, and also it met, we found it consistent with the growth policies to accommodate household and economic growth. Based on those considerations, the Planning Commission staff recommends that the proposed map amendment be found consistent with the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. And that's all I have, and I'm available for any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Collins. There's no, we're the applicant on this one. All right. I will then go to the public. Is there any public input? I don't see anybody's hands raised. Seeing none, I will open it up to the commissioners. Are there any questions or comments from the commissioners on this item? Seeing no hands and no commissioners, we're going to close public comment and open it up for motions on this item. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we approve CPA 2020 and forward it on for approval.
Thank you. I have a motion by Commissioner Powell. Is that a, see Commissioner Bernstein? Are you there to second?
I am.
Right.
I'll second that motion.
Motion for consistency by Commissioner Powell, a second by Commissioner Bernstein. There is no further discussion on this item. I don't see any commissioners popping up. I would ask the clerk to do a roll call.
Joseph?
Aye.
Bernstein?
Aye.
Cardenas? Dix?
Aye.
Dowdy?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Kress? Marina?
Aye.
Powell?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Collins.
Thank you.
All right. On to our last item, TACPA 20-19. This one's going to be presented by Jennifer Malone.
Hello, good evening, commissioners. Hopefully everyone can hear me and see me.
Yes.
I'm going to be presenting on Tampa Comprehensive Plan Amendment Item 2019, which is located along North Havana Avenue. This is located in the Central Tampa Planning District within the West Tampa Urban Village. It's at the corner of North Havana Avenue and West Kathleen Street. It's just north of West Columbus Drive, which is an arterial roadway that's definitely developed with that commercial pattern. This is an auto repair / dance studio that's located just to the south of the subject site. West Kathleen Street is defined by some single family detached homes, but again, North Havana Avenue as well has some commercial uses along it. This is an office building for the Hillsborough County Federation of Teachers. To the north, we have another design studio that's an office building across the street from North Havana Avenue, and then we continue with those commercial uses along West Columbus Drive. It is a privately initiated small-scale amendment at approximately 0.2 acres, and the request before you today would be from residential 10 to community mixed use 35. This is the subject site located at 3007 North Havana Avenue. It is a single-family home currently. We are facing south towards West Columbus Drive in the shot, so you can see the subject site on your left, the office building on the right. That office building is interfacing the subject site, and I should point out that it's also the community mixed use 35 future land use designation. And then the intersection of West Columbus Drive and North Havana Avenue is to the south. This is another one of the buildings I pointed out earlier that's to the north of the subject site. It's also community mixed use 35. It's being utilized as offices for the Hillsborough County Federation of Teachers. This is a single family home along West Kathleen Street. So this is adjacent to the subject site, but just around the corner, essentially. We have more single family homes along West Kathleen Street. And then this is the corner of North Havana Avenue and West Columbus Drive to the south of the subject site. The adopted future land use is residential 10, that is shown in that orange color. The community mixed use 35 is located to the south of the subject site and to the north across the street. This is the Hillsborough County Federation for Teachers office building, and this is a design studio, another one of the brick buildings that we saw in the view earlier. There's also community commercial 35 to the south in that red, and then residential 20 in the brown further south. And this is the proposal. The applicant is requesting the community mixed use 35 future land use designation. This would increase the density intensity of the subject site. Currently, the applicant could develop about 2 units. He will have the potential for up to 7. It would increase the commercial square footage from about 3,000 square feet to approximately 17,000 square feet. Also, in the proposed designation, residential units can be developed under dwelling units or the floor area ratio as well. We did find this consistent with the comprehensive plan objectives and policies. While the plan does seek to protect existing residential areas, the plan also caveats that with it needs to be balancing the need for new development with that. The community mixed use 35 future land use designation does allow for commercial general uses, but any proposed development will be subject to the rezoning process, and staff will be reviewing that. There are screening and buffering requirements in place already in the land development code that would offset any impacts down the road that might occur from this. And lastly, the location of the subject site, given that it is on a collector roadway, North Havana Avenue, it's located very close to the arterial of West Columbus Drive and across the street from parcels that already have the community mixed use 35 designation. Staff did not find that this would be out of character with the area. The plan also states that we should designate enough land for housing to meet Tampa's growing population. And one of the core components of the plan is this compact city form strategy, which encourages mixed use infill development within proximity to transit and employment services. Again, this is on a collector roadway, just 1 block north of an arterial that does provide that transit connections to employment for the residents. The plan also encourages new housing on vacant or underutilized land. Lastly, the plan sees urban villages as a growth area, and the policy reads that the urban villages we should direct the greatest amount of growth to those urban villages. And as I said, this is in the West Tampa Urban Village, and based on these policies, staff did find that it would be appropriate to find this consistent with the comprehensive plan, but we've received no objections on this request, although I do believe city staff is on the line if you would like to ask any questions. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Right. City doesn't have a separate presentation or anything, right? They're just here for comments or questions. Okay.
Correct. Yep, and the
All
applicant is here as well.
The applicant want to make a statement of any kind or? Nope. All right. Well, I will open it up.
He had.
Good. Okay, I'll wait.
Sorry,
Hello,
sorry.
can
I
you
do
hear me?
know that Braulio had a. Oh, there he is.
There he is. Okay.
Hello.
Mr. Grajales. Hello.
Hi. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, commissioners, and members of the staff. I'm Braulio Grajales with High Point Engineering in Tampa. Jennifer, thank you very much for your help throughout this process and for your excellent presentation. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you this evening through this video conference. I'm here on behalf, before you to speak on behalf of Zach and Christina Alvarez. Zach and Christina on this property, which they're planning to redevelop with townhomes. That being said, I'd like to introduce you to Christina, which she would like to present or provide their vision for this property. Christina, are you there?
Christina has not logged into the session.
Christina, are you available to talk? Can you unmute it? No, Christina, I don't think they can hear you.
I think I'm good now.
I think
Hello?
they can hear you now. Yes, go ahead.
Yes. Hello, commissioners. Good evening. I'm so sorry about the technical difficulties there, but thank you very much for your time this evening. I appreciate it. My name is Christina Alvarez, and I, along with my husband, Zach, are the owners of 3007 North Havana Avenue. Let me start off just by saying that we are third-generation Tampa natives. We have deep roots here. My family is in the cigar business, are headquartered in Ybor City. So again, our roots run deep in Tampa. With that said, my husband and I are setting out to help restore and further redevelop the West Tampa area, where both of our families grew up. We grew up as well, and a good amount of our families still reside here today. Yet our main focus right now is to redevelop this corner lot on Havana Avenue and build 3 townhomes on this property. So just in closing, our future plans and our overall vision is just to continue to redevelop this area and bring more value not only to this property specifically, but Tampa as a whole. So I just wanted to just quickly introduce myself and let you guys know what our intentions are. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll shoot it back to Braulio. And also thank you so much, Jennifer, too. That was a wonderful presentation. I appreciate all your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
I don't have anything else, so without all that being said, I'm here to respond to any questions that commissioners may have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Grajales. I will open it up to anyone in the public who has comments. I don't see any hands raised. If anyone wants to make a comment, please raise your hands. Seeing no hands being raised, I will open it up to commissioners for comments or questions on this item. Seeing no commissioners appearing, I will then close public comments and open it up for a motion on this item from commissioners. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we find CPA 2019 consistent and forward it on for approval.
All right, we have a motion for consistency by Commissioner Powell. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Commissioner Green. All right, I'll ask that the clerk go on ahead and take a roll call vote on this item.
Joseph?
Aye.
Bernstein?
Aye.
Cardenas? Dix?
Aye.
Dowdy?
Aye.
Green?
Aye.
Chris? Marina?
Aye.
Powell?
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Malone and Mr. Grajales.
Thank you very much. You all have a good
Sure.
evening.
You too. All right,
Thank
and
you,
that
Jennifer.
looks like it for tonight. So with that, I will go on ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank everybody for their time.
Thank you, everyone.